Good morning everyone and happy Sunday. Today I'm going to film a video. I am so excited. This is the most excited I've been about any video on this channel so far, and that's my book recommendations for Fantasy of Manners books. So Fantasy of Manners is my favourite subgenre of fantasy. It's got to do with etiquette and flying teapots and flying teacups and dukes and Almacks and the London season sprinkled with magic. Think about a magical Regency tea party. That's definitely the thing here. And the term Fantasy of Manners really derives from comedy of manners, which I love because at its core, really, the genre doesn't take itself too seriously. And I think coming from comedy of manners, personally, what I really like about the genre is that it's often funny, and that's what I look for in any book: light, fluff, fun. So this is my absolute core, really niche genre, and I'm so excited to be talking to you about my favourite books in this genre. I've been reading this genre since 2015, and I think I've got a good really understanding, I think, of what the genre is at, and I'm just so excited to be talking to you about these books today. They are some of my absolute favourite books ever. I will read them every year, every single one of them. I've got quite a few, so let's get started. Really, if you're interested in that at all, a magical Regency tea party, grab your teacup, grab your tea, your favourite tea, and let's dive in. So I'm going to start with a series first and then talk about a few standalones at the end. So for me, the quintessential, I think, series to start with, if you want to dive into Fantasy of Manners and you don't know where to start with, I would say that Sorcery and Cecelia and the Enchanted Chocolate Pot is the first book that you should start with, really. This is an epistolary novel written by Patricia, Wrede and Caroline Stevermer. It's an epistolary novel, so the authors went through a game called the letter game, in which you impersonate a character. So they chose a setting, they chose the characters, and you write letters back and forth, creating a work of fiction that's collaborative, and that's exclusively through letters. So they played the letter game at the time, which I desperately wanted to play when this started, and Sorcery and Cecelia came out of it really at the end. That's the product of this game. So Sorcery and Cecelia is about Kate and Ceci, who are two young ladies in Regency, England. And they are cousins actually, and they are separated for a summer. So one of them is going off to London and one of them is going to stay at home, and magical happenings are going to occur really around them, and they've got to kind of navigate London society and at home, really, with all of those magical happenings around them. It's beautiful, it's so witty and gossipy. It's mostly having to do with just a gossip of everyday life, and a romance happens to both of them, including enemies to lovers romance for one of them as well. I'm not going to tell you who, but it's very good. And the entire book is written through letters, but the style of the letters is very, even though both authors actually, each author had a different character, the style of the letters is very, it's very gossipy, it's very light, and it feels like one person just wrote it, really. It just feels effortless and silly, and it's got a witch impersonating somebody else, it's got cross-dressing, it's got flying teacups for sure, it's got an enchanted chocolate pot, it's got all sorts of things, and it's cute, it's funny, it's silly, it's just the best, I think, to start with. So Sorcery and Cecelia, this is the edition that I've got right here. I'm going to show you, I'm going to read just the first page or so, just to give you a taste of the book, because I think it's just, the style is so precise and so unique to this book. And actually a lot of the book here, the style was unique at the time, but a lot of the books here actually, I think, just derive from this style of writing, really, which is very silly and light and fluffy. 8th of April 1817, Rushton Manor, Essex. Dearest Kate, it is dreadfully flat here since you have been gone, and it only makes it worse to imagine all the things I shall be missing. I wish Aunt Elizabeth were not so set against my having a season this year. She is still annoyed about the incident with the goat, and says that to let the pair of us loose on London will ruin us both for good and spoil George's chances into the bargain. I think this is quite unjust, but there is no persuading her. I believe the fact that she would have been obliged to share a house with Aunt Charlotte, should she and I have come to London this year, may have contributed to her decision. So I rely on you, dearest cousin, to write and tell me everything. If I am not to be allowed to enjoy a season of my own, I can at least take a vicarious delight in your and Georgina's triumph. I am quite convinced you will take London by storm. So this is really kind of the style here. It's just really gossipy, fun, light, and just absolutely gorgeous. I adore this book so much. This is the first in a series, actually in its trilogy. So the first is Sorcery and Cecelia, or the Enchanted Chocolate Pot, which is right here. The second one I can also absolutely recommend. It's called The Grand Tour. The Grand Tour, I've got this absolutely gorgeous hardcover edition, which is kind of like new. I bought it secondhand, but it's like new. I just absolutely adore it. I think it's just stunning. And in this sequel to Sorcery and Cecelia, which I love just as much as the first book, even perhaps more so, we follow Kate and Ceci after their marriage. So they are married at the end of the first book. It shouldn't be a surprise. Almost all of these books I'm going to recommend today have an element of romance, which I think is part of the fantasy of manners, really. It's just catching a husband. So the Grand Tour follows them after their marriage on their honeymoon, and they go on a grand tour of Europe, which people did at the time. The upper classes often went to France and Italy and Switzerland, that sort of thing, to just enjoy Europe really on their honeymoon, and that's what they do in here. Although what happens is that a lot of things happen around them. We've got a mystery having to do with restoring Napoleon to the throne. So there is a plot happening around them with the coronation regalia, which is the subtitle actually to this book, The Grand Tour, or the Purloined Coronation Regalia. And they've got too entangled in the mystery and on their grand tour to Europe and on their honeymoon. This is very bantry, this is very flirty as well. I love their flirting in the first and second book with their now husbands. And I just absolutely adore these two books. Honestly, if you do nothing else, read these two books, please. It's got very small, very domestic magic, which has not got a whole lot to do with a grand plot or a grand scheme. It's very domestic, very small, and just lovely, honestly. Just sprinkled with magic. It's absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, Sorcery and Cecelia and The Grand Tour, the sequel. It has got, the whole trilogy obviously has got 3 books. There is a third book called The Mislaid Magician. I personally don't like it as much as the first 2, so I'm not recommending it. I think the inclusion of children in the third book was done partially well, but not to my liking, I suppose, and it's quite dull, really. So I don't really think that the wit of the third book really matches the first 2 books, which are completely excellent. Highly recommend. So that's the first 2. Next up is going to be those books right here by Tansy, Rayner, Roberts. So those books are the Teacup, is this the Teacup Magic series? I think so. The Teacup Magic series by Tansy, Rayner, Roberts. So Tansy wrote, I think 8 books in this series actually. My favourites are the first 3, which starts with Tea and Sympathetic Magic, and then The Frost Fair Affair, and then Spellcracker's Honeymoon. So in these books, which are very similar to Sorcery and Cecelia in a way, it's a whole subgenre. I'm obsessed with it. So you're going to find a lot of the tropes just coming over and over again in those books. That's what I'm obsessed with. Tea and Sympathetic Magic. Mimi is, she has got powers, and she goes to her cousin, the Duke, wedding, and at this wedding she meets a spellcracker who is there to make sure that the Duke is actually falling in love with his bride and that he's not under a spell. And the whole thing happens really having to do with portals and magical portals, that sort of thing. It's brilliant, it's really funny, and also it's novella length. So if you're not going to commit to a novel, if you want to commit to a novel, or if you think the genre is not for you, or you don't want to, or you just want to give it a go, but you don't want to spend too much time on it, I think novellas are the way to go, really. So I would highly recommend this series. It's brilliant as well. It's brilliant. The first one has got to do with mostly the wedding, and they're flirting and they're bantering, so there is a romance, of course, in this as well. the second one, actually, the Frost Fair Affair, is brilliant. It's got to do with pamphlets. It's more political than the first one, but it doesn't have too many high stakes, I would say. It stays quite low, and it's quite everyday, I suppose, everyday magic. And it's Frost Fair, so it takes place when the lake is frozen, and there is a fair taking place on the lake, and vendors and that sort of thing. It's brilliant. I love the setting of this. And Spellcrackers Honeymoon, both Mimi and her husband go on an island without magic, and a mystery happens, and they've got to solve it. I adore these novellas, honestly, and Tansy Roberts again has written many more books in the series. Personally, I love the first 8, but a lot of the secondary characters have their own book later on in the series as well. So if you fall in love with one of the secondary characters, absolutely, you should read the entire series. I think it's just brilliant. I just think that the wit and the consistency of the books just stays absolutely perfect in the first 3. So that's why I'm considering it personally as a trilogy. I love those books so much. Next up is Stephanie Burgis. Stephanie has always written, I've got my peonies right here, my beautiful peonies reel, which were offered to me yesterday. Didn't introduce them to you, but yeah, my boyfriend just gave me a posy yesterday of peonies. They are my favourite flower, and they're only just here for about a month or so, so they're very, very hard to catch and hard to buy, but I just absolutely adore them. They're like little feathers, and I love the colour so much. It's my colour, so my favourite colour. These are fake, these are real. So I'm surrounded by all sorts of peonies. Next up is Stephanie Burgis. Stephanie Burgis has written a lot of books which I consider favourites, and she's written, I think, the best, her best books in the fantasy of manners genre, which are those books, the Harwood Spellbook series, it's hard to say. Starting with Snowspelled, which takes place, of course, during a snowstorm. So Snowspelled and the Harwood Spellbook series in general really takes place. The main character is called Cassandra, and they take place in a world where women are to be confined to the sphere of politics, and men are confined to the sphere of magic. So women can't practice magic and men can't practice politics. So it's a very gendered world, I suppose, in some sort of Victorian England, I suppose, or even Regency, actually. It could be Regency. Alternative Regency, I suppose, with the Fae. So the Fae are a very present element of these books. I'm not too fond of the Fae, so it's just enough for me. These are very short books, actually, almost, well, they are novels, but almost novella length. And in Snowspelled, Cassandra, actually we learn that Cassandra has had a disastrous event in her life, which has meant that she was capable of doing magic, but something happened and she can't do magic anymore. And her ex-fiance was present when the incident happened, so he witnessed her losing her magic, sort of thing. So it's got political ramifications and it's got romantic ramifications as well. They both reunite during a snowstorm, and a lot of things happen, really. This is a really good social conscience, I would say, series to pick up. And also some of the books are really just silly and fun and frothy, which I completely adore. So it's got a social conscience, definitely. It's got something to do with, it's got something to say about gender as well. And I think the artwork is just stunning, honestly. And I love Cassandra as a heroine. I think she's just such a good role model. Yeah, and the second chance romance in this book as well is just pristine. I love it so much. So the first one is Snowspelled, and the second one is Thornbound. Thornbound, love the cover, love the artwork. Thornbound takes place after the events of Snowspelled, and Cassandra is able to, this is, I guess, a spoiler, but Cassandra is able to open a school of magic for women. So she's going to teach magic to women, which is forbidden and which is frowned upon in this world. And inspectors just descend upon her because society, again, just doesn't want women to use magic, and they don't want men to go into politics. They've got their own separate spheres. So inspectors descend upon them, and a series of mysteries happen as well. That she's got to save her school, and she's got to save those women, really. So there's the second book, Thornbound. I love it. I love a magical school setting so much. I loved just reading about the classes and about the teachers and about the teachers' lives and the students, and just there is a sense of urgency, I suppose, and again social conscience books which talk really about limitations put upon women at the time, and which I thought was just really resonant and perfect. There are two there are more books in the series, I suppose, that could show you those in print, but my absolute favourite book actually in the series is called Frost Gilded, and I can't show you actually because it's a short story, and it's a short story set at Yule time, and it's got festivities, and Cassandra is trying to throw a party for all of her guests, so characters whom we met in the other books, and everything goes wrong with the party actually because she's trying to find her husband, Wrexham, but everything goes wrong and nobody can tell her where he is, so a lot of things just go wrong, I suppose, and it's a very, very funny book, and it's my favourite actually in the series, Frost Gilded. I will read it every year at Christmas, and it's just, yeah, it's just warm and fuzzy and absolutely a hug of a book, a comfort of a book, just beautiful. Next up is going to be my favourite actually currently writing author in this genre, in fantasy of manners genre, and that's India Holton. I read about, well, I suppose I discovered India Holton on Twitter, was it on Twitter? And I think it was on Instagram, before she published her first book, and I instantly knew that I had found a kindred spirit. Her aesthetic and her writing and her sensibility are just absolutely gorgeous, and I'm so, so happy that she writes the books, like the kinds of books which I really deeply love. She reminds me so much of Gail Carriger, who was my entry into the genre. I can't recommend Gail Carriger just now because I haven't reread all of her books. I don't know how they would hold up really to scrutiny nowadays. I haven't reread anything recently, and I lost all of her books during the move, so it's not going to be anytime soon, unfortunately, but she was definitely my entry into fantasy of manners. She introduced me to the genre. I owe a huge debt to Gail Carriger, and I think India Holton is just absolutely perfection, and really in that vein. So she's got very witty books, very fast-paced books, full of adventures, full of plot as well, a romance. There's got one couple per book as well, and absolutely, again, just gorgeous books, and just so deeply funny and clever. So her first book really is in the Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels. Right here, I love her covers, absolutely beautiful. Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels, right here. Again, so the couple is, so she's part of a society of women, and he is a pirate, and he's assigned to kill her actually, but she doesn't want him to kill her, and so she just, a lot of things happen and they fall in love in the process. It's very silly, it's very clever. Again, the writing is just so clever, so precise, and absolutely, if you think of Miss Fisher, for example, of Miss Fisher's Murder Mystery, Phryne Fisher, if you think of her, and if you think of, if you transported her into the Regency and gave her magic, that's where those books remind me of so much. So much. The first one, the Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels. Second one, the League of Gentlewomen Witches. The covers just give you everything, I think, that you can, wish for in a book. And the third one, which is actually my favourite, the Secret Service of Tea and Treason, about two agents who are assigned, who have got an assignment and who have got to fake an engagement and to do so. And I think it's just my favourite, really. It's just so good. so good. All of her books have got absolutely memorable lines. Again, the writing is precious. Memorable lines and really good plot actually. The action is just, it's so fast paced, but it remains, I wouldn't say on the surface, but it's not going to do with high stakes or huge things happening. It's very domestic, and it's very romantic as well actually. All of her couples, I think, root for, and the length of her books actually allow her, I think, to develop the romance so well. The banter is top notch in those books, honestly. So, again, so clever. They are very much light academia sort of books. And she's got a second series actually, which I happen to love even more, called Love's Academic. There are only 2 books in the series so far. I don't know if it's a series that's over or if she's going to write more in the series, but that's personally my favourite actually, because the first one, which is, so Love's Academic, the first one, the Ornithologist's Field Guide to Love, has got my favourite couple really, and I think that that's her best writing, honestly. Yeah, so two rival academics, just swear that two rival academics are entering a competition to find a rare bird, and they travel all over England to find it. And I just absolutely adore this book so much, and the cover I think is the best cover I've got in my collection of books, honestly. Absolutely to die, and very much again light academia. This made me want to go back to academia and pursue a PhD. I'm going to tell you right now, it's got that sort of feeling. So that's the first one, and the second one, which actually came out in April, so very recently, is Geographer's Map to Romance, and it's got Elodie and Gabriel, who are married, but only in name only, I suppose, and they've got to reconnect romantically and emotionally. So they've got a marriage of convenience, I suppose, prior actually to the beginning of the book, and they've got to reconnect in some way. And they are both geographers, and so they're going to investigate things having to do with the soil, actually. Things are happening, mysterious happenings, and they've got to investigate in Wales. So I love the cover as well, again, and I absolutely adore this series, really truly absolutely wonderful. Just, I love Angel Holton so much, and I think she's the most intelligent and most precise writing that's around right now in this subgenre, I think. Moving on to two very different series. So the first one is my, actually, this is kind of my absolute favourite series, I suppose, in terms of one thing in particular, so I'm going to talk about that. So it's called The Ladies' Occult Society by Krista D. Ball. Yeah, these are indie books, so I think they could dive into things which some of these other books cannot dive into. So the first one is called A Magical Inheritance, and the Ladies' Occult Society and A Magical Inheritance in particular focus on Elizabeth Knight, who is the impoverished, really, she's the impoverished daughter of a curate, and her whole family, who is only women except for her father, who's a curate, is just impoverished, really. It's genteel poverty. So think about Sense and Sensibility, for example. That's very much where they're at the beginning of the novel, and they've got to make do with what what life gives them, what their what little money they've got to stretch it to to the full. So that's where the first book starts with, and Elizabeth is kind of shy and reserved, and one day she inherits magical books from an uncle, and she realized that those magical books can actually summon a ghost, and that she has got magic in her that she can use for good. And she recreates, I suppose, a society of women who can use this magic and who can use this magic for good as well, and perhaps to help her family as well. So this is kind of the whole premise of the series. Where it truly shined for me is that it focuses on a very small group of characters, but I knew of no other novel, honestly, that I'm going to talk about today. I knew of no other novel in the fantasy of manners genre which really focuses on domestic details the way that these books do. If you love dresses, embroidery, food, how to run a household, housekeeping, how women were just spending their time at the time, what money could buy at the time, that sort of detail, that sort of amount of detail. You've got pages and pages and pages of dialogue and of descriptions of all sorts of things having to do with domestic life in Regency England. And I love that so much. It's my catnip, honestly. It's my catnip. They're very slow paced, but they really spent time on things which I just cannot get enough of, honestly. It doesn't feel like non-fiction. It doesn't feel like research just dumped into you, but it's just it's amazing. For example, there would be a dinner scene in which Elizabeth would order something from the cook, and they would talk in detail about what that would entail. And I just absolutely love that. It just gives you, I think, a whole appreciation for the period and for all of those other books you're going to read in periods, Georgia Tare, Jane Austen. That's just unparalleled to me, and that I've never found anywhere else, honestly. So apart from just reading about a heroine who is shy and reserved and who doesn't really have any self-confidence at the beginning of the first book, just coming into her own and finding that confidence through the course of several books is just, I think, very moving to me. So apart from that, there is this amount of detail, and there is this layer of female friendship and female relationships as well. She's got female siblings, and she's got, for example, a mother-in-law who is almost her age. So it's about that too. It's about broken families and how to mend that break, and it's about all sorts of things having to do with family and family dynamics. I love those books so much, and I think they're just not talked about very much at all, and it's a mistake, honestly. So A Magical Inheritance is the first one. A Ghostly Request is the second one. I love those covers. And then we've got In the Society of Women. I think that was the second one, actually. Anywho. And A Lady's Choice, which is a hardcover. Which is the last book in the series, which just came out, actually. It's the finale. This one is quite different, actually, because something happens in the third book, which makes this one a little bit different, but still excellent, absolutely excellent. There is a romance which is overarching the entire series, and it's a very, again, slow-paced romance. It reminded me of the Miss Percy books by Quenby Olsen, I think the name of the author is, the Miss Percy books. So a very slow-paced romance between two reserved and shy characters, which is not something that you find every day and which I absolutely adore. Next up, my very last series, actually, that I want to talk about are the Ladies of Almack's books by Marissa Doyle. So the Ladies of Almack's books, which I'm going to talk about right here, are a series of books, mostly novellas, really, which are, actually this is the last one, which are focusing on the patronesses of Almack's at the time. So Almack's was a club in which only the really upper crust of society could enter, and it had patronesses. So patronesses who would give away vouchers to people who they deemed to be enough to enter Almack's, really. So it's about those ladies, and in this magical world, they've all got magical powers, which are very different, and they all just there is a sense of female friendship between them in every book, but they've also just there's jealousy, it's very realistic, I would say, in terms of portrayal of female friendship in general. Really, it's not all positive, but it's also just got this thread of women helping each other and just using their powers again for good. What I love about this series so much, apart from the characters, and the main character, who's called Annabelle, whom I absolutely love, actually, she's a widow, she's got sons, is that every book focuses on a different mystery, and you unravel the world, which is very light and fluffy, but has got unexpected, I suppose, magical beings and magical happenings, and it just actually caught me by surprise every single time. So every book has got a mystery to unravel, and they've got to use their powers to unravel it while navigating society. There is an overarching romance in those books as well, which has got to do with a spy, and Napoleon, and absolutely gorgeous, just all of my keywords, honestly. So the first book is called The Forgery Furore. The second one is The Missing Missives, about books going missing, the 50 Shades of Udolpho going missing, and they've got to track who is actually stealing the manuscripts. Turmoil on the Thames, about a race and mystery during the race. An Event at Epsom, horse race and a mystery during the horse race. This one actually takes place at Eton as well, which was a wonderful addition, I think, to the series. The Cursed Canvases, mystery at the Royal Academy having to do with paintings being destroyed, lyrics and larceny, opera singer, mystery. Yeah. And the Vanishing volume, actually this one was about the 50 Shades of Udolpho, and the Missing Missives is second to last actually, and Betrayal at Brighton is the last one, the latest one I suppose. And those two are very different because something happens, and those two are very different. This one is a bit darker, I would say, Betrayal at Brighton, but still, you know, very good, and it's Brighton as well, which is very nice to explore. These should be read in order, I would say, because apart from the mystery, there is an overarching plot having to do with the ladies themselves, and there is something again happening in the last two books which I think you have to be prepared for. So these have to be read in order. So definitely start with the Forgery Furore and make your way through the series as you go. I've got two more books for you today, two standalones. So I'm going to talk about actually Newt's Emerald first by Garth. Newt's Emerald is an unexpected book actually, because Garth does not really write fantasy romances, but he did for this book, and I'm so happy he decided to do that. This one is the paperback edition, but I love the Kindle edition as well. Actually, I love the cover for the Kindle edition as well. But yeah, Garth wrote Newt's Emerald about Newt, who, when she is truthful, when she is 18, when she on her birthday actually, she's given an emerald by her family which has got magical properties, but this emerald actually disappears and descends Newt on a wild goose chase, chasing this emerald all around England. And in order to do that as a lady, she's only got one option actually, and that's to cross-dress as a man. So she goes on a wild adventure cross-dressed as a man, and she meets interesting characters in the process who think she's a man, and also romance in the process as well. And that's very Shakespeare to me, very Twelfth Night for example, but yeah, that's very Shakespeare to me. And it's got weather magic as well. This has got family dynamics, this has got a ship. The author said that he drew inspiration from Georgia Terre, Jane Austen and Patrick O'Brian. I have only read Master and Commander by Patrick O'Brian, but it was really good. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, this is a really good adventure book, a fantasy romances, a romance, cross-dressing. Cross-dressing is one of my favourite things in fiction ever. It's just so much fun to me, and yeah, I just absolutely adore Newt's Emerald. A hidden gem, honestly, because again, this author is not used to writing fantasy romances, but if you can track this down, absolutely, it's just so worth it. So much fun, a good, really good romp. Tempest in Teapot by Kate Valent. This Serendipity book, that's the name of the series, is the first book in the Serendipity book series, and I personally love the first book. I don't really like the other two as much, but Tempest in Teapot again is a gem. So it's got Charlotte, who is Baker's daughter, and she lives a very plain, simple life, but she's got magic. And one day she is actually invited to this country manor estate to a tea party. She goes, and the Marquis, who is holding this tea party, gives her tea to drink, and much to her surprise, it turns out that the tea chose her as his future bride. Martin is a very scatterbrained, very one-track person. He is lovely and a joy, and Shelter him just start to fall in love. And it's got tea, it's got baked goods, it's got cinnamon rolls, it's got absolutely hilarious scenes as well. And one of her best friends writes Penny Dreadfuls at the time, so it's got that as well. She's got the second book which is dedicated to her. But if you want to just a quick read, honestly, if you want a quick read, a quick fun romp, and someone who is obsessed with tea, this was the perfect book. This really features tea. They have really long tea chats and discussions about tea and different teas and what they actually enjoy about tea and that sort of thing, and I thought that was just superb. I love this book so much. I've read it I think 3 times overall. So yeah, absolutely adore this book so much. It's part of a series as well again, but I just prefer the first book so much. So those were all of my book recommendations for fantasy romances. I hope you found something to enjoy. I just want to say that if you if you actually love Fantasy of Manners the way I do, I just absolutely, I think that the reference really, absolutely good point of reference for Fantasy of Manners is Kelsey from the Fancy Hat Lady Reads channel here on BookTube. I have been following Kelsey since I think her first video, or her first few videos. That was a while ago, that was I think a decade ago or so, and I absolutely adore her as a booktuber. She lives in New York as well, and so I live in a capital city as well, Paris, so I feel like we're connected. We are connected in this weird way. But she absolutely features not only Fantasy of Manners on her channel, but mythic fiction as well, and mythic fantasy on her channel, and forest fantasy, that sort of thing, written by women, not just that. And she has a focus on fantasy, definitely, but she is definitely just my, if you want to find somebody who really reads the way I do in fantasy, Kelsey is absolutely my go-to person, really. We have the same, I think we have some of the same taste in fantasy, definitely, and I absolutely adore her. I just think she's absolutely wonderful, and I love her consistency. I love her reviews, how detailed she is, how well spoken she is, how eloquent, and how much thought she puts into all of her videos. She had a book and tea pairing series at some point, which I thought was just absolutely wonderful. It wasn't her idea, but her execution was flawless. So absolutely recommend Kelsey. Again, I'm going to put her channel name down below for you to check out. But yeah, that's it for me today. I'm so happy to have made this video. It has been just my priority for the past several weeks, and I'm just so happy to have finally done it. I hope you enjoyed something in this video, and I hope you're going to read some fantastic books this month, really. Happy month of May. It's my birthday month, so it's my favourite month of the year, and I hope you enjoy it and have a fabulous time. Take care, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye!